Hello and welcome to the Drop a Stitch podcast, episode 3.
I'm Danny, your host.
And I'm Natalie, your other host.
So in today's episode, we're gonna be talking about knitting for family and friends.
Yes.
All about as a knitter or crocheter, how do you manage to knit or crochet for your family without feeling like people are taking advantage of your craft? Not your craft, of your abilities.
Should you knit for your family and
Exactly.
friends?
Should you?
Should you charge them?
Should you say yes or no?
All the controversial topics coming up today.
Yes. This is going to be an exciting one.
Yes. With Christmas coming up, it felt like this was a great topic for this week.
Oh, it is. And I just feel like you have said that like 3 times.
I have, because we've been redoing this little bit because your baby keeps waking up and crying.
My poor little thing. I think she has gas. Anyways.
Or your chair sounds like you have gas when it hits your desk.
That too. But anyways, today...
We'll make it through.
We will. Today's episode, like we were saying, is all about knitting for family and friends. So how can we start?
Your baby's crying again. Do you knit for family and friends? Let's start with that. Have you?
Yes, I have, but because I have offered.
Okay. I have as well.
No, because
depending with who, I'll accept like requests. But I feel like people in my circle, at least, are very good at not asking a lot. Or they'll ask how much it would be, and then I tell them I would normally sell it for this much, and then generally they're like, oh, okay.
Bye. Never mind.
Yeah. I mean, knitting and crochet take a lot of time.
Oh,
so
yes.
It's normal that it costs. Like, the yarn is not cheap. Let's start with that.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it takes a lot of time. So if something, takes me 6 or 8 hours to make, it's not going to be $20.
Oh,
you know?
yeah, for sure.
You have to pay your time in there. And so, okay, so we've established we've both done it, but I think we've both done it when we felt comfortable doing it. Like, when we offered it. And not when we've been asked.
I have never. I don't think I have ever been asked to do something. I think everything that I've done for family, mostly family. And
didn't your cousin ask you to make one of your scarf with the pockets?
My cousin?
Was it your cousin or your sister? Your sister-in-law.
My sister-in-law. But I really wanted to do it.
Okay.
But
she asked you.
She said like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful, like I would love one. But I was going to Chile for Christmas, so that was the perfect Christmas gift. Though I was very pregnant and I couldn't finish this scarf, so you had to help me.
Yes, I offered to help you.
Yeah.
I was going for a girls' cottage weekend and I saw that you were struggling and I was like, just give it to me. I'll bring it with me and I'll finish it. I mean, I didn't do everything. I didn't do the fringe and I didn't do the pockets, but I did the main piece of the scarf.
Oh, yes, that was...
And then handed it back to you and it was like, weave in my ends and do the rest.
Oh my God. Yes, I feel like that part of my pregnancy was a blur. I wasn't feeling extremely sick, but for some reason I always forget.
So tired.
I was so tired.
You were so tired.
Yeah, and so she asked me for that. Well, she didn't specifically say like, oh, can you make it for me? She was like, oh, that's so nice. That scarf is so pretty. That was one of my latest pattern, the Ember scarf. And I was like, oh, this is a perfect gift for her. I was just going to Chile, so I'm like, perfect timing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think there was somebody asking me ever, like, specifically, can you make these for me?
Yeah. My cousin will ask me, can you make this for me? Or for her daughter. I've made like the snugglers for her daughter. But she helps me for like multiple things, like all the pom-poms on my things she makes. So that was kind of our deal. Like, you do the like, I'll cut all the squares of the fur and everything, and then she assembles them for me.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'll pay you in knitted stuff. So that was kind of our deal. So, and
okay.
she won't, like, I'll tell her, like, no, I'm not doing this. Like, if something is not something that I want to do too.
Yeah.
So she knows also my style and she likes it. So, like, it never happened that she'd be like, hey, like, how about you make me this, like, weird thing? And I'm like, well, that's not my style. I don't want to make it, you know?
I feel like that's also if you have the trust in that, you know, with a person.
Well, it's give and take, I feel. The thing with handmade is a lot of people don't value the time that it takes. And even the cost. Like, people think handmade is cheap. Like, you cheaped out. Instead of buying me a gift, you made handmade. But it's the opposite.
It's the opposite.
Like, materials cost so much more, and then the time and the love and, like, all the attention that you have to put into
everything.
It ends up costing so much more. And if you look at, like, how much small businesses are selling these items for, you'll realize it's worth a lot more. Like, if I'm, you know, buying a gift for someone, you know, I'll do a $40. But if I'm knitting them a merino hat, it's worth $70, you know? So, like, oftentimes a handmade costs a lot more is worth a lot more than non-handmade. So you also, I feel like a big impact on whether I'll make something for someone is, do they appreciate handmade, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a big point too, because you're not gonna make something for somebody that's like, whatever, you know, like she makes things like, you know what I mean? It's gotta be somebody that you, like you said, that will appreciate and that will know the value of the handmade item.
Yeah.
Those are a couple of things that I have made too, the snugglers things. I know my nephews and nieces won't know that that's handmade, but that's on me, the joy that it brings me making something for them. Same with my son. Like, I have made him a couple of the dinosaurs, and I know he doesn't know. I mean, I try to tell him, Mommy made these for you.
He thinks it's me.
Yeah, he thinks it's you. Like, everything knitting and crochet related. Oh, Natalie. I'm like, well, Mommy can make things too.
This is the greatest thing. I get all the credit and do none of the work.
I know, but he's like, I try to tell him, you know, like, Mommy made this or whatever.
I think he kind of starts, I mean, he's still very young, but he kind of starts to get it, because he'll be like, Mommy this, Mommy that.
Yeah.
Like, so he kind of understands these are special items that you've made.
And the other day, whenever he asked me for the Santa hat, I even made a reel about it.
Yes.
It was crazy because he's starting to understand that I can make things, and that if he requests, I don't know, an item, he knows that he says, like, Mommy hats or Mommy this, Mommy that. And he asked me specifically for a Santa hat. So he's like, Mommy, make a Santa hat. And I was like, okay, I'm going to make it. And so I did. And I've been trying to tell him, you know, like, Mommy made this. So he can start to appreciate and know that these things are not bought in a store, are not, you know, that somebody actually with their hands made it. And that's the thing too. I know, or my daughter too, like, I made, you know, many blankets and stuff like that. I know they it's not like they don't appreciate it. They're so young, they don't know anything.
They don't know, but it's a great way to introduce them to it. Because, and even your nephews, and like my cousin's daughter, I've made snugglers for her at, like, my cousin's request, but, like, they see it and they love it, and, like, even though they don't fully grasp what handmade is, like, to them it's special because, like, my aunt made it for me, or you know what I mean, like, is someone, like, my mom made it for me, like, and they might not fully grasp what that means yet, but they will as they're older. Like, we all have this one toy as a kid, or this one, like, blankie, or, like, you know, teddy bear, and, like,
a lovey,
you know, a lovey, and one of the snugglers you made, Luca, might be, you know, the one he will keep until he's an adult, you know what I mean? And, like, at one point it will click, like, my mom made this for me, you know?
And that's the thing too, whenever you're making things for little people, is that it's more the joy for me,
the joy of giving it,
the joy of giving it and making it, knowing it's going to someone special, than, oh, they're not going to appreciate it's handmade, because he probably won't, but he's so little. You know what I mean? So I feel like whenever you are making baby blankets and making baby hats and stuff like that, it's one, if it's not for your own kids, you know that the parent is going to appreciate it. but it's also the joy that brings you making something for that someone special.
Yeah.
So then you don't care making it, you know? Yeah. Like, I don't mind, of course, yes. at all, making things for my kids.
I feel like that's the big factor for me. Like, it's twofold. It's if I'm not asked and someone's like, oh my God, I really love these, and I know it would make them happy, I want to make it for them.
Yeah.
And if I'm asked in a way that's respectful to, like, hey, like, I would love this, how much would you charge me to make me one, or something like that. Like, it's not expected that because I know how to make it, I'll make it for free. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like to me, that's respect. And then that goes kind of both ways. If you can respect me enough to ask me how much it would be worth and understand the value of it, even if you end up being like, oh, that's above what I would be willing to pay, then you give me the opportunity to be like, well, you know, like, for you, I could make it for cheaper, or you know what I mean? Or I could make it for free as a gift or whatever. But I feel like if you're like, oh, can you make this for me? And you kind of expect the person to make it without, you know, even providing materials or without, you know what I mean? Like, then I feel like it's rude. And that's where I'll be like, no, I'm sorry. You know, like I've had friends in passing be like, oh, like, it would really nice to get this, like, it would be really nice, like, you should make this. And I'm like,
I hate the word you should.
Yeah.
I hate
you should make this, like, or like, you should make this for, like, my daughter, you should. And it's like, no, I should not.
Yeah.
Like, if I want to, if you offer to buy it and I offer to give it to you, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like, to me, the way that I'm approached about it is going to make a massive difference on whether 100%. I want to or not. But if it's like, hey, like, I want this, can you make me this? Or you should make this for me?
No, or if I get you the yarn, can you make this for me? I'm like, no.
It's no. It's, for me, that's automatic no. Like, we have to understand that whether you do this as a hobby or whether you do this as a business, a lot of time is involved. Like, whether it's you're taking time away from your business and therefore your income, or you're taking time away from your personal life, from hanging around, you know, with your friends and your family and doing anything else that you have to do in your life. This is time that you're taking away from that.
To make that.
To make something for someone. And when the way it's brought up is kind of like, you should do this, or I want this, make me this, or I'll get you yarn and you do it. It's like, no. Like,
automatically no.
My time is valued and I don't have time for this.
Automatically delete.
And for me, it really comes down to, like, the way people ask whether I'll say yes or no. The other factor is what you ask for, because there's, like I said, different ways of, you know, asking about it. But then if you're asking me to make, I don't know, like, and I'll say amigurumi, and it's kind of a bad example because we just talked about the songlers, which are technically amigurumi, but they're made with super bulky yarn, so it's very different. But if you're asking me to make, like, anime something or small amigurumi with, like, fine yarn, or even, honestly, if you're asking me to make you a sweater, it's going to be a no, you know?
For me, it's socks.
Socks too.
If you ask me to make you a pair of socks, well, I will have
Although
to, like,
I have made socks as a gift before, but they were, like, super bulky, like, kind of reading socks, so that was fine. Because that's the thing too, you have to understand, the smaller the yarn, or the, like, more detailed or complicated the project, the more time you have to put into it.
Yeah.
And so
and some things are not, like, I can sit on the couch and just work on the project. Some things you have to, like, actually concentrate and get the pattern and be reading and constantly be focusing on that project in order to finish it.
Yeah.
So, like, sometimes
it's a big time commitment.
Sometimes it's not just like, oh, I'm gonna make you a blanket and I can just sit and watch Netflix and watch this amazing show while I'm doing it, and, you know, like, whatever, you know. Sometimes you actually have to sit down, focus, grab the pattern, and really commit
and pay attention to every single stitch. I think also for me, it depends, like, the time of the year and what else I have going on. Like, if, you know, I'm less busy and I have a bit more free time, or I have, you know, like, I'm going on a road trip and I know I'm going to have, like, 6 hours in the car to work on something. I'm a lot more willing to do stuff when, like, I know I have time to do it. Whereas, like, you know, right before Christmas, I'm super busy. I have a lot of things to do, and, like, work is busy, and I have to, like, the shopping and everything else. And it's like, oh, on top of that, like, I want this. And it's like, no.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Not going to happen.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's really important, to kind of respect yourself. And if, the person doesn't ask in a way that makes you feel comfortable, say no. Say you don't have time.
Yeah.
Or say, like, especially if they're not offering to purchase a material or pay you in any way, shape, or form, like, you can say no. I can't afford to buy the yarn to do this for you.
Yeah. 100%. I feel too that's something that I say to my followers, my Spanish followers, a lot. And not just with gifting, but also with selling. It's like, never make something that you don't want to make.
Exactly.
Never.
It's as simple. If you're like, if when they send you a picture or the pattern or whatever it is, and you're like, ugh,
yeah,
say no.
If it's not going to bring you joy, if it's not going to make you happy, then don't do it. Not just because it's a family member or a friend, unless it's like something that you know that it's going to make them extremely happy, and it's somebody that you really love, and you're like, I could potentially do it just because I just love you so much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But if it's not, then don't do it.
You're just
simply
gonna hate
don't.
the whole process of it.
And it's probably not gonna come out as nice as you expected it to be, because you didn't put that much interest and love. You just want to get it done, kind of thing.
Yeah, the end product is not the same. Like, when you're enjoying it and you're happy and you're loving it is very different than when you're like, ugh, why do I have to work on this again? I have to hurry up and do this many rows today, or else I'm not going to get it done.
Yeah.
It's very different. And, like, even as stupid as, like, if it's not your style or your colors, and, like, I find it's one thing too, if someone asks me to do something and I'm like, you know what, I don't really have the time, but, like, I want to do it for you, and I can also use it and, like, post about it on Instagram or do whatever, like,
for sure.
Sometimes it has some sort of benefit for you, as small as, like, oh yeah, like, it'll give me content to publish, while I have nothing because I'm working on all these bigger things, or whatever the case may be.
Or it'll give me pictures.
Yeah,
if I
like,
take pictures.
Like, that could also be, like, a good motivation to do it, but then it's kind of goes back to the respect, and, like, I get something back from doing something for you.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately, if you don't feel like it, or your first reaction is like, ugh, just say no.
Yeah,
you're allowed to say no.
Yeah, I think that's huge, especially if it's family or friends. You need to know that you can say no, and that you're allowed to say no, and that you should say no.
Or, I mean, if you're like, I would do, like, if it's not a project that you're like, I really don't want to do it. If it's something that you're like, I could, but I don't have time to do this for free for you right now. You can also be like, unfortunately, I don't have time to do this for you for free, but I would charge you this much, and then it would be worth my time. Like, if you're, let's say, doing market prep, and you're, making items to sell, and someone is like, hey, can you make me this free hat? And it's like, no, because if I make you this free hat, that's a hat that I'm not making for my market. That's money that I'm losing, So, but if they're willing to pay for it, then it's like, whether I sell it to you or I sell it at my market, it's the same thing, right? So there's also that circumstance that can come. And honestly, that's kind of, I've been fortunate that the people around me will either not ask me, or will mainly be like, hey, how much would you charge for? And kind of give me like the option of saying a price. No one's like flat out asked me, hey, can you make me this? There's been a couple of like, hey, you should make this for me or whatever, which I kind of just brush off and ignore until it becomes more of a like, hey, you really should do this. And then I'm like, no. I lost my train of thought. It's my turn this time.
I know.
What was I saying?
When people ask you and you say like straight up no.
Yeah, you could charge them. Like, and I feel like that brings us to the question of like, how much should you charge family and friends for your knits? So like, how would you go about it?
So, to me, I mean, I think there are a couple of questions, like, would you feel comfortable just charging for the yarn or the materials, or would you feel comfortable giving it for free, or would you rather actually get some money from it? And I feel, to me, it all depends of who the thing that I'm making is going to, and how big it is. because I have my mother-in-law. She always asks me for things, and she's like, Danny, like, do you have some of these? I want to pay you, like, charge me whatever. Or she's like, if you have any in stock, I would like to buy this or whatever, a few things. Most of the time, because she asked me that way, I'm like, are you crazy? She asked me for coasters. I'm like, I'm gonna give you the coasters.
Yeah.
Like, it takes me nothing to make them. I'm so happy that you want my coasters in your house. I'm like so flattered that you want my things in your decor. Like 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to charge you.
It kind of goes back to the way it's asked. Like,
exactly.
If you're asking me how much because you're willing to pay for it, it makes me so much more willing to offer it to you for free.
100%.
And it's like, like a coaster, for example, like with one skein of yarn, you can make so many.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll make you 4, no worries. Like, I have the yarn, like, whatever. But, like, if it's like, hey, can you make me the sweater? It takes 16 skeins of mohair. Like, I'm not going to make it for you if you don't offer to pay for at least material. Like, I'm not even going to, like, entertain the idea.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? So you kind of also, depending on the project, like, I think that the very least you could offer if you're asking someone to make something for you is, I'll cover the materials. Would that be enough, Because, like, time is free, but time is money,
For sure.
It doesn't cost you anything out of pocket, but it costs you where it's time you're not spending on your business, time you're not spending, with your friends and your family and doing whatever life things you have to do. So it does cost you something somewhere. But so what I typically do is, when someone asks me, like, how much would something cost, I respond, like, I don't tell them, like, oh, it's worth this much. I'll be like, I would normally sell it for this much. Or, like, if it's something I haven't made, like, I'll kind of look around or ask, Knit Night friends or whatever in the community and be like, oh, like, I have never made this, but people around would charge this.
Yeah.
And then based on the reaction and the way I interact on the people, I kind of just decide if they're like, oh, okay, well, that's too much for my budget for right now. Then I'll be like, okay, well, what would be your budget? Would you be comfortable at? And then I kind of say the price that I would be comfortable doing it for that person at, And if they're like, yeah, that would be fine. Like, would you really, like, make it for that price? And I'd be like, yeah, of course. For you, I would. You know what I mean? And then sometimes they're just like, oh, wow, that's a lot of money. Well, yeah, that's... You've just proven to me that you do not value the handmade.
Go to Walmart.
Exactly. Like... The way that, like, it's hard to say, like, this is what you should do, because it's so dependent on personal, how the person and the interaction. And I feel like, like, deep down too, when someone asks you, do you want to make this, or, like, how much would you charge, you instantly know what your gut feeling is. Like, do I want to or do I not want to? And, like, sometimes I don't want to, but hey, if you pay me full price, I will do it. And sometimes it's like, I'll give it to you for free. Like, honestly, I don't even want you to pay me, like you were saying with your mother-in-law and the coasters. It's like, no, I'm so happy that you like them enough that you want them. Like, I will make them to you for free.
And I think that everything goes back to what you were saying, is the way they ask. For example, like I said, I'm fortunate enough that I never had anybody asking me or, like, say straight up, oh, make this for me, or you should make this for me. I always had people, like, asking me in a good way that it makes me want to give it to them for free, or for at least the cost of the material. But other example is that my mother-in-law again, she loves everything that I make, that everything gives her ideas of gifts.
Okay.
Like, coworkers would be having babies, she would get the booties, and she would, like, but the thing that makes me the happiest, and well, also because she knows and understands my business and how it works, but she's like, after your markets, whatever's left, I'll pick from that. Like, don't give me anything that you're bringing to your market now. After your markets are done, then I'm gonna check what you have left, and I'm gonna pick from that. And that just shows me that person really cares
Because she respects the fact that if she picks, you know, the best colors or the most popular colors at the moment, those are the ones you would have sold at the market, for instance.
But the thing is, too, that she would also pay me for the booties, the same price. But she still wants to give the opportunity of other customers or other people to get those things that are super nice.
She respects you and your work, and she understands that you're making it for the market at the base and not necessarily for her at the beginning. And I feel like that's another point too. It's different when people will ask like, "Hey, would you make this for me?" And when they ask like, "Hey, I want to give this to my coworker, can you make it?" Like, to me, you're a tiered remove. Like, I don't know your coworker. Like, if you wanted to buy them a gift anywhere, you would pay for it. Yeah. So like, in that case, it's like, why would I, like, you know, to me, if it's like removed like that, it's for a coworker, it's for anyone, unless I know the person, I will charge. Like, if you're like, "Hey, my coworker's having a baby, would you make this?" Yeah, it's this much. You know what I mean? Depending on who is asking me. Like, if my mom's like, "Hey, like, you know, my coworker's having a baby and I want," you know, I'll be like, "Yeah, okay, like, I'll lower the price, for instance, but I will charge.
At least get me the material."
Yeah, exactly. But I will charge if it's not for someone I know directly. Yeah. If it's for a friend of a friend or a coworker or whatever it may be, you know the charge. Like, it makes no sense to not, and then it's up to you, your discretion, whether you want to charge full price or you want to give that person a rebate or whatever. And I think if you start off with, if you have that as like your guideline for friends and family, that nothing is free given. It's not because I knit that I will knit everything you want under the sun. And I feel like it goes back to the respecting. If from the get-go this is how you act with them, like, they will also respect you.
That's what I was going to say.
Run into the situation.
I was going to say those are like the boundaries.
Yes, boundaries is the word.
Yeah, that you will set from the beginning, and like you were saying, then people are not just going to come and be like, "Oh, can you make me this? Can you make me that?" Because they already know your response. They already know what you're going to say. And they already know, okay, if I want Natalie to make me this, you know, I at least have to provide her with the materials and also ask. So I feel like that's something super important, especially now with the holidays. Again, never feel the pressure, you know? Not because it's your friends and family, not because the holidays are coming. Don't feel like you have to say yes. And if you put the boundaries at the beginning, then it's going to be easier for you as well, because then you're not going to have to be saying no all the time. And people, it's going to know, okay, you know, like, I can't just be, "Oh, you should make me this."
But that makes me think of another point too. Speaking of Christmas coming up, for me too, I found when I first started crocheting and knitting, I didn't just automatically gift everyone knitting and crochet for Christmas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I also, in my actions, then make it a thing that, like, you can ask me for anything, I will just make it. You know what I mean? Like, I've very actually rarely gifted knitting, just because, like, you know, at first when you first start, you notice mistakes, you're not like sure of the quality of your work, and like, but as like I got more comfortable, even nowadays, is not my first go-to is to gift handmade. There's certain people that for who, yes, but then I know that these people fully appreciate it. Like, you know, you kind of give a test piece, you're like, "Oh, I'll give you this," and then you see how much they appreciate it, and you see, like, going back to my cousin, for instance, like, I've made pieces for her, and like, she will tell everyone, like, "My cousin made this, and my cousin made this," and like, she posted it on her Instagram, and she's like, "Look at how great my cousin is, like, she does this," and it's very, like, it makes me feel valued. Like, not only is she appreciating the item, but she does it enough that she'll tell people about it. And she's like, you know, like, I made a snuggler for her daughter, and I was at her place, and I was working and she was working, but we were just spending the day together, and she had a Zoom call, and her coworker, who's also her friend, they had a meeting together, and she's like, "Oh my God, look at this, like, my cousin made it, it's so cute," and she'll like push it. So like, of course I want to make things for her because I see how much she appreciates it, and I see that, like, in a way, it's publicity. I don't do it for the publicity, but it's so nice to have someone value it. Yeah. Whereas if you gift, and it's hard too, because you obviously have to gift something that the person will like. Mm-hmm. But if you give something to the person and you see that they don't really wear it, if they don't really take care of it, or they don't, value it,
you're like, why then you don't do that?
Really spend 4 hours like making this item for this person. You know what I mean? So long term, like, those are not people I will make more stuff for.
Yeah. So would you say, why would you say that you don't gift handmade for Christmas?
It's just not my first thought, because I think that's
why
where
not?
I think, to me, it's not because you do, like, because I know people that do a bunch of crafts and they're beautiful, but they're not necessarily for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I can really appreciate that someone knits and someone does this, but that might not be the hat that I want to wear. Like, I might want, to buy my hat at Walmart, for instance.
Yeah.
So I can see the crafts that other people make and really value the work that they do, but it not necessarily be for me. So I kind of don't automatically assume that because I can make a hat, people will like my hats. So I'll kind of wait, and people that will either follow me on Instagram or comment on my picture and be like, oh my god, I really like this, then I know that they like it enough that I can gift it to them. But if there hasn't been this interaction, and sometimes too it's just a generational gap, like if like my aunts, for example, like if they don't have Instagram and they don't follow me on Instagram or on Facebook or whatever, and I never, like, I don't know whether they would like it or not, I'm not going to offer it to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I kind of wait to kind of get a hint from the person that they like a certain style or item or color or whatever it is, and then I'll gift it to them. But it's not like my baseline is not like, oh, because I knit and crochet, like, this is what I'm going to gift everyone, because obviously not everyone's going to value it, not everyone's going to like it. The same as I see a lot of other crafts and I'm like, this is really cool, but I don't want to hang this in my house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not my first thought.
I think that I haven't thought about that, but in the back of my head, that's probably why I have gifted handmade before, because I got the hint.
Yes.
From people, like my sister-in-law, she was saying how much she liked that scarf, so I wanted to make it for her. The kids, I
feel like kids are the exception, honestly. Yeah, I feel like for a kid, my first thought would be like, oh, I could make, a cute little hat or a little snuggler or a little, and like that will be a lot more my first kind of instinct. But for adults or anyone that has more of an opinion, it's not, because like I want them to value it, but I don't want it to be like, oh, I gifted this to you, so now you have to value it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, and then they feel the pressure, oh, because she made it, I have to wear it. And whenever you don't like something and you don't want to wear it, it's like, ooh, like now I have to, or I'm gonna pretend whenever she comes that I'm wearing it.
And I don't want that.
Yeah.
So
and it's also because it's time for you. Like, you spend time making it, and you don't want to waste, waste time making something that somebody is not gonna wear.
Yeah.
Because, like, for me, for example, this is my business. So any amount of time that I spend making something, it's time that I could be doing my videos or doing prepping for markets or doing like anything. So like you said, it's valuable time. I really need to know that person is gonna value what I'm making. I got a couple requests for this upcoming Christmas.
Okay.
And I feel like the time it's the clock is ticking.
Yeah.
And I have to make...
That's another factor, though. Timing.
Yeah.
Like, if you're like, hey, can you make this for, like, Christmas? And, like,
we're
now early December. Like, could have asked me that in the summer. I would have had the time. Now, maybe not.
Yeah.
That's another, like, factor to take in consideration. But we were talking last time I was here. Kale has wanted you to make him slippers.
Oh, my gosh. These slippers. Okay, so... my partner asked me for whenever we met, whenever I was talking to him about my business and what I do for work,
Sorry.
That's okay. What I do for my business and everything, he found on Pinterest these tank slippers.
Yeah, like an army tank.
Like an army tank. And I was like, there's no way I'm making that. And to this day, he's asking me for the slippers.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and every time that he asks me that, I'm like, but are you going to wear them though? Because I'm not spending whatever number of hours making the slippers for them to be in the closet. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no way.
And obviously, you have a doubt that he might not wear them as much as he thinks he might.
Yeah.
Plus, it's not something that you would enjoy necessarily making.
No.
Okay, so...
No. Like, 100% no. I mean... Slippers, okay, like I can make you the slippers with that yarn that, you know, we make the amigurumis or the snugglers, the, how do you say blanket. It? Chenille? No, but the material is chenille.
Yeah, I guess chenille.
Yeah. It's different if you make like a plain slipper. These are tanks. Like, picture like a real tank with what's that thing called?
Whatever, the thing that
shoots the...
Yeah, the thing that shoots.
The thing that shoots.
You know what we mean.
Yeah, like... It's a real thing, so it's a detail.
But it's almost like amigurumi slippers, almost.
Yeah,
because it's got details, and you have like little stitching for the windows, and like whatever windows or details there is on it.
And like I have to also think like, how do I make them so he can wear them and be like a slipper and not just like a sock or like a decoration for his shoes, you know, like you, because I think like the ones he saw were stuffed with polyfill, so like how do you make them in the bottom, you know, like do you have to put
it's a whole it's a whole like thing to figure out, and it's not something you're interested in, so
exactly
he doesn't have his slippers.
But he, to this day, he's been asking me like, when am I gonna get the slippers, when am I gonna get the slippers? And I'm like, I just, maybe for next Christmas.
I mean, I probably shouldn't say this, but it's better than what my boyfriend is asking me for.
What is he asking for?
A willy warmer.
Oh yeah.
Because he saw it and he thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. And he was like, oh my god, I can't believe people actually have made this. You need to make me one. Sorry. Just like as a joke. Because he's like, I can't believe people do this. And I was like, I'm not crocheting you. Hell no. Like, this is not a thing. He's like, I could walk around the house with it. It would be funny. And I'm like, no.
How are you gonna pee?
Like, that was actually my response. I think it's gonna get full of pee.
Yeah. And he was like, well, you can make... No, didn't he say you can make interchangeable ones? But then he's like, you can remove the top.
Yeah, he was like, you can have it like the mittens where you open it. He's like, you can have the top. I'm like, no. It was just like, it was a funny conversation, but it's like, even with our partners, like, this is things that was like, no, I don't want to make this. Like, I know you're not going to use it or value it properly, because let's be real, this willy warmer is going to stay in a drawer the whole time. He will wear it the first time, think it's so funny, and then it will get put in a drawer, and no one will ever see it again. And like, it's just, basically, if you're not comfortable with the project,
don't do it.
No. Feel free to charge either the cost of materials or the full price of the items, depending on the situation.
Yeah, for sure.
And on the other hand, make sure that what you're gifting to people is something they would actually enjoy.
Yeah, make sure, like you said, make sure they give you hints, they comment, they compliment your work, and it's something that they would actually like. And if it's something that you feel like doing for people, ask. Would you wear this?
Yes.
Would you use this? Like, if I make you a scarf, would you actually wear it?
Exactly.
You know?
Actually, Amanda is the best example for this. Our friend Amanda, I know she's made sweaters, or I don't know how many, but at least one sweater for a friend. And she picked went shopping with the friend to pick the yarn.
The color.
And then the color, the friend picked the pattern that she wanted for her sweater. And Amanda knitted it and even had like test fit to make sure everything was fitting properly, and she liked the results. So like, it's not a hidden gift that like you don't know it until I gift it to you. Yeah. But it's a great way to ensure the person's going to like it, because it kind of goes both ways. In order for people to respect your work and respect what you do, you also have to kind of respect their tastes.
Yeah, and also so like they can use it as well. And like you said, it's almost like free publicity too, because you're enjoying making it, and then the person is enjoying wearing it or using it, and then they're gonna compliment and talk amazing thing about what you did, what you made to other people, and then that just goes around and around. I remember my mother-in-law's sister, so my partner's aunt, she bought a hat one time, and then she wore it around the school because she was the principal. She was wearing it around the school, and everybody was like loving the hat, like everybody loved it. And then she made an order. She bought hats because people wanted to buy them, so she like placed the order for them, and then they got it.
She had the contact with you,
and so then everybody. I remember that time. I think it shipped there like 15 hats.
That's amazing.
Yeah, to the States. And it was just because she loved it so much. She was wearing it around the school, and then everybody wanted one.
Yeah.
And you know, like, so I think it, like you said, it's just a circle, and it goes around. Whenever you do something you love and the person that gets it appreciates it that much, then, you know, it just brings back just good things.
Yeah. And it makes it even more worth it to have gifted it to that person.
Yeah. You're like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I gave it to you.
Yeah. And it's like, now you want to make more for that person, because it's like you really appreciate it enough that you'll tell people about it, and like there's no better compliment.
Yeah, she loves the things that I make so much. I remember the amber scarf, the original one that I made. She wanted it, so my mother-in-law bought it from me for her. And she just wears it all the time. Like, it's just amazing when you have people that really appreciate handmade and the things you make.
Yeah.
So, to recap.
It's worth it for the people that really appreciate handmade.
Don't hesitate to say no. Feel free to say no.
Yeah. And feel free to charge if you're like, I should, but I don't have the time. Just charge.
Yeah. Or just don't do it.
Follow your gut feeling.
Yeah. And also make sure you're going to make something that you're enjoying.
Yes.
Don't make, never, ever, not even to sell. Don't make anything that you don't enjoy making, because the result is going to be just terrible.
So you're not going to enjoy the process. So
why waste your time?
Why put yourself through that?
Yeah. And also the other person, right?
So basically, I said this was going to be a controversial topic, but we just agreed on everything.
Yeah.
So I guess this is it.
It wasn't a controversial topic.
But I know it can be hard for some people to say no, but I think it comes with time. Just practice saying no, and you'll realize very quickly that it's not that hard.
And also be confident on what you're making. It's worth. You know, it's worth the money that you're charging. It's worth your time. So know your worth also. It's super important.
Absolutely.
So yeah. Well, that's today's episode. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. We're gonna be. You think we should be listing in the description like the past episodes.
Yes.
Yeah. So then
we'll
they
link
can
them back so that they can.
Yeah, refer to it.
Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and feel free to leave your comments again on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, leave your comments, feedback, whatever you think that we should improve, or if you have ideas, you can leave them there. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple or even Google, we're on everything, I think, and everywhere you can listen to the podcast. Make sure to leave us the 5-star review, so then the platforms can jump up our podcast and more knitters and crocheters can find our podcast
and listen.
Yeah. We'll see you, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye.